what we have to confront is a deep, systemic, and structural restructuring of our world. And this will take some time. And the world will look differently after we have gone through this transition process.
That doesn't sound bad, right? Fairly benign. It's restructuring. It's transition, structural restructuring. But what's he talking about? Here's what he's talking about. You must understand this. Until you understand this, well, I know you probably do, until your neighbor who's rolling his eyes understands this, they will never understand the stakes of the game we're in. All the leaders of the Western nations, they all think like this now, just like Klaus Schwab, that Bond movie villain you see right there. They all think the exact same way. What do they think? What's wrong with our structure? We have to transition. He says we have to transition, that we need a restructuring. So what's wrong with our structure? Well, the leaders of the Western nations, they view your freedoms, the free countries of the West, they view your freedoms as being something horrible that holds the world back. You and your freedom of speech, working the job you want, right to bear arms, these things are ridiculous. Private property? Why are the peasants allowed to even hold private property? Klaus Schwab, the billionaire tech guys, all of them, they all feel this way. They all feel as if they are kings and queens. You're a peasant. So you have to give up your freedom. That's the way they see it. Your freedoms are holding back the world. It's holding back them from guiding the planet, the great men of the world, from guiding it the way they want to guide it. But here's the problem. You don't want to give up your freedom. I don't want to give up my freedom, right? No, I like being free. So that creates a problem for them. They can't just take it from you. They have to find a way to get you to give it over to them willingly. Who would do that, though? Who would take freedom and hand it over to some cabal of elites who would rule over us? Well, somebody's scared that if they don't, something worse will come along. That's why they've made most of this World Economic Forum stuff about climate change. Climate change. The climate's changing. The rivers are drying up. The world is heating. The world is freezing. You see, you would never hand over your freedoms unless you felt like you had to, unless you were scared. They're working very hard to make sure you're scared enough to hand over the freedoms you have left, because if you don't, the world's gonna burn, right? It'll be the end of the world if you don't give your freedoms over to me, peasant. Give me those freedoms. So when people like Joe Biden talk like this, you really need to understand this is how all the Western leaders think now.
Against this backdrop, it's more urgent than ever that we double down on our climate commitments. Russia's war only enhances the urgency of the need to transition the world off its dependence on fossil fuels.
It's just a transition. What are you worried about? Oh, freedom to drive a car. Give that up. We have to transition. Don't you know? Russia, climate change. There are big, evil things happening on this planet that go way beyond a midterm election or 2024. Big things. Always remember that.
Don't miss Jesse Kelly Breaks History, Che Guevara, the latest episode of a new series available now exclusively for First TV supporters. Visit the First TV app or thefirsttv.com to subscribe and start watching today.